Every nation has its monsters, its ancient dragons and mythical beasts, born from 1,000 years of history. But America is different. It is a new country, a vast continent of borrowed histories and new frontiers. And from its deepest swamps to its highest peaks, from its loneliest roads to its most ancient forests, a new mythology has emerged, a pantheon of homegrown monsters, each one a reflection of the landscape that created it, and a mirror to the fears of the people who see it. This is a journey to map those fears, to survey the strange and the terrifying, and to chronicle the mythical beasts of America. The story of the great American apes begins with the archetype, the figure that casts the longest shadow across the continent. It is a creature known by many names, a quintessential wild man that embodies the vast, untamed wilderness. This legend is most deeply rooted in the deep, temperate rainforests of the Pacific Northwest, a landscape of immense scale and profound silence, a fitting home for a giant that lives at the edge of human perception. The modern incarnation of the legend was given its name in 1958. In Bluff Creek, California, a bulldozer operator named Jerry Crew discovered a series of massive, human-like footprints pressed deep into the mud around his worksite. The local press, seeking a sensational headline, dubbed the mysterious creature Bigfoot. The name was simple, evocative, and permanent. It transformed centuries of disparate wild man stories into a singular, modern American phenomenon. The cornerstone of all modern Bigfoot research is the Patterson-Gimlin film. Shot on 16mm film in 1967, again near Bluff Creek, the 1-minute clip shows a large, fur-covered, bipedal female walking across a sandbar. The footage is shaky, grainy, and profoundly controversial. For decades, it has been subjected to intense scrutiny, with proponents claiming its subject's unique gait and anatomy are impossible to fake, while skeptics dismiss it as a clever, but ultimately simple, hoax. The film transcended its status as mere footage to become a defining cultural event, a Rorschach test for one's belief in the unknown. Beyond this iconic film, the evidence for the creature's existence is a vast collection of anecdotal and physical traces. Thousands of eyewitness reports have been logged, describing a consistent pattern of behavior and appearance. Hundreds of plaster casts have been made from massive, 5-toed footprints that exhibit signs of a flexible, non-human foot structure. Audio recordings, most famously the Sierra sounds, have captured complex, primate-like vocalizations that have defied easy explanation. Each piece of evidence exists in a state of tantalizing ambiguity, compelling to believers and inconclusive to scientists. The enduring power of the Bigfoot legend speaks to a deep psychological need within the American psyche. It is a modern myth that keeps the frontier alive. In a world that feels increasingly mapped, measured, and known, Bigfoot represents the possibility that a profound mystery still exists. It is the embodiment of the wild, a living rebuke to the idea that humanity has conquered every corner of the continent. The creature's survival is, in a sense, the survival of the wilderness itself. The shadow of this great ape, however, falls far beyond the temperate rainforests of the Pacific Northwest. The archetype of a massive, hairy hominid has proven to be incredibly adaptable, its legend taking on new forms and new names in the vastly different ecosystems across America. The archetype's first major adaptation moves from the cool, misty mountains of the north to the suffocating primordial humidity of the Florida Everglades. Here, in the labyrinthine swamps and cypress domes, the creature is known as the skunk ape. The name itself is a testament to its most defining and infamous characteristic: an overwhelming, noxious odor, described by witnesses as a sickening combination of rotting garbage, sulfur, and carrion. This powerful stench is often the first and only sign of the creature's presence, a territorial warning that hangs heavy in the humid air. Theorists propose the odor may be the product of a highly active marking gland, a biological tool for claiming territory in the dense, complex environment of the swamp. Others suggest a simpler explanation. The smell is a result of the creature's diet and its constant exposure to the stagnant, anaerobic waters of its habitat. Physically, the skunk ape is often described as slightly smaller and more slender than its northern counterpart, with longer, shaggier hair, an adaptation suited to the wet, hot climate. The most compelling visual evidence for the creature comes from a set of controversial photographs taken in 2000. Mailed anonymously to the Sarasota County Sheriff's Department, the Myakka skunk ape photos depict a large, dark, ape-like creature with glowing eyes, peering from behind a screen of palmetto bushes. While dismissed by many as a clever hoax, likely an escaped orangutan or a man in a suit, the images captured the public imagination and remain the most iconic and debated piece of evidence in the skunk ape's long and pungent history. The skunk ape represents a darker, more primal version of the wild man myth. It is a creature born of decay and oppressive heat, a phantom that haunts the murky waters and impenetrable thickets of a landscape that feels alien to modern human settlement. Its legend is a powerful reminder that the wilderness of America is not uniform, and that each unique landscape is capable of producing its own unique monster. From the primal phantom of the deep swamp, the American ape archetype transitions into a creature of the backyards of rural America. In the small, isolated town of Fuke, Arkansas, the creature is defined by its direct and often terrifying proximity to human life. The Fuke monster, as it came to be known, is a creature of the threshold, a monster that crosses the line between the wilderness and the homestead. Its legend is built not on fleeting glimpses in the deep woods, but on a series of aggressive, close-range encounters that terrorize local families. The pivotal series of events occurred in 1971, centered around the home of Bobby and Elizabeth Ford. The Fords reported being repeatedly harassed by a massive, foul-smelling, ape-like creature that stalked their property at night, peering into their windows and, on one occasion, attacking Bobby Ford, sending him to the hospital. These encounters, filled with the visceral terror of a home invasion, transformed the creature from a local curiosity into a genuine threat. The Fuke monster's fame was cemented in popular culture by the 1972 docudrama, The Legend of Boggy Creek. The film, which used real local residents to reenact their own encounters, was a massive, unexpected success. It bypassed the scientific and analytical lens of the Bigfoot phenomenon and presented the creature through the raw, terrifying language of a horror film. For millions of Americans, the Fuke monster became the definitive movie monster version of the American ape, a creature that was actively hostile and a direct danger to those who crossed its path. This portrayal established a new dimension to the archetype. While Bigfoot was a majestic mystery of the deep wilderness, the Fuke monster was a creature of immediate, tangible fear. It represented the anxiety of the isolated rural resident, a fear that the vast, dark woods surrounding the home were not empty, but were instead the hunting ground for something that saw the family porch light as the edge of its own territory. The American ape archetype also branches into the realm of the truly bizarre. If the Fook monster is defined by its behavior, the Missouri monster, or Momo, is defined by its biology. The legend is a case study in high strangeness, a collection of physical traits that push the creature beyond the boundaries of a simple undiscovered primate and into something far more unsettling. The primary wave of sightings occurred in the early 1970s, painting a portrait of a uniquely abnormal creature. Witnesses consistently described Momo with a set of features that deviate sharply from the standard Bigfoot account. Its most prominent feature was a massive, pumpkin-shaped head that appeared to sit directly upon its broad shoulders, giving it a strange, necklace silhouette. It was covered in thick black hair, but its face was often described as pale and featureless. The most peculiar detail, however, was found in its tracks. The creature left behind large three-toed footprints, a biological feature that has baffled cryptozoologists and further separates Momo from any known primate lineage. The legend of Momo is a powerful example of how a singular, bizarre detail can create a potent and enduring local legend. The three-toed tracks became the creature's calling card, a piece of physical evidence so strange that it fueled years of local fear and fascination. Momo represents a tributary of the American ape myth that flows towards the uncanny valley. Its story, a collection of unsettling biological traits that suggest something more alien than animal. Finally, the American ape archetype comes full circle, its cryptozoological identity merging with a much older and more pervasive folkloric tradition. In the ancient, shadow-filled hollows of Appalachia, the creature is known by a name that carries a different kind of weight, the wood booger. This name is profoundly significant, as it connects the modern phenomenon of a hairy hominid directly to the ancient, deep-seated European and American folklore of the boogeyman, a nebulous figure of terror used to frighten children into obedience. The wood booger is thus a creature of two worlds. It is described in cryptozoological terms, with reports of its size, tracks, and hair consistent with the broader Bigfoot phenomenon. Yet, it is also imbued with a more supernatural and menacing quality. It is a creature of the deep woods, a true monster that embodies the fears of the isolated mountain community. The name itself frames it as a genuine boogeyman, a malevolent spirit of the forest that one must actively avoid. This regional variation serves as a powerful synthesis for the entire Great American Ape phenomenon. It demonstrates how a modern myth, like Bigfoot, can be grafted onto a much older folkloric rootstock. The wood booger is both a potential undiscovered primate and a literal monster from a ghost story. It is the perfect illustration of how these legends function, blending the real-world mystery of the wilderness with the psychological landscape of our oldest fears. So what do we see? A single, powerful archetype, wearing different masks in different forests, from the majestic, silent giant of the north to the foul-smelling phantom of the swamps, from the aggressive territorial monster of the backwoods to the bizarre biological anomaly of the heartland, and finally, to the supernatural boogeyman of the mountains. It is a profound testament to the adaptability of myth, a single story that has evolved to fill every dark and empty space on the American map. The American wilderness also gives rise to legends of unnatural predators. These stories represent a shift from the elusive giant of the woods to a predator that is far more direct and threatening. They are tales of creatures that look like they belong in the natural world, but are twisted into something terrifyingly new. The most potent of these modern legends was born on a quiet stretch of farmland road in southeastern Wisconsin. This is the story of the Beast of Bray Road. The phenomenon came to public prominence in the early 1990s, when a local reporter named Linda Godfrey began investigating a bizarre cluster of sightings in and around the town of Elkhorn. What began as a small collection of local rumors soon revealed itself to be a deep, pervasive vein of high strangeness. Dozens of credible witnesses began to come forward with stories of their encounters, many of which had been kept secret for years out of fear of ridicule. These were not tales of a distant, shadowy figure. They were reports of close, terrifying confrontations. The creature they described was a chilling synthesis of man and wolf. It was a bipedal canine, standing 6 to 7 feet tall, with the powerful torso of a man covered in dark, matted fur. Its head was that of a wolf or a German shepherd, with a long snout and pointed ears. Witnesses consistently reported its most terrifying feature, its eyes, which glowed with an intense, intelligent light. It was often seen at night, crossing the road in the glare of headlights, a shocking apparition that defied all known biological classification. Many of the most compelling sightings describe the creature in a peculiar kneeling posture on the side of the road, as if it were consuming roadkill. This detail, repeated across multiple independent accounts, gave the legend a disturbing ring of authenticity. It painted a picture of a real, physical animal, a predator with behaviors and needs, existing just at the edge of the civilized world. This biological realism is what separates the Beast of Bray Road from older, supernatural werewolf folklore. The Beast of Bray Road represents a uniquely American monster. It is a modern iteration of the ancient werewolf archetype, stripped of its supernatural baggage of curses and silver bullets. It is reframed as a cryptozoological mystery, a biological anomaly to be tracked, studied, and explained. The legend functions as a powerful piece of regional folklore, a cautionary tale for a community surrounded by dark woods and lonely roads. It is a story that suggests the predators of the old world have found a new and unsettling home in the heart of the American Midwest. The bizarre events on Bray Road are a single data point in a much larger and more unsettling pattern. The modern origins of this phenomenon trace back to the forests of Michigan. Here, the creature is known as the Dogman, a name that became synonymous with the American werewolf archetype, largely due to a single, powerful piece of media. The descriptions of the Michigan Dogman align almost perfectly with those from the Wisconsin sightings. Witnesses consistently report a massive, 7-foot-tall creature with the head of a wolf and the body of a man, covered in dark fur and possessed of a terrifying, intelligent gaze. The sightings are almost always fleeting, a shocking glimpse of an impossible creature at the edge of a clearing or on a remote logging road. Unlike the Bray Road case, the Michigan legend's modern identity was powerfully shaped by an act of creative fiction. In 1987, Traverse City radio DJ Steve Cook recorded a song called The Legend as an April Fool's Day joke. The song, a folk ballad compiling several local tales, had an unintended effect. It opened a floodgate, encouraging dozens of people to come forward with their own long-hidden stories. and transforming a scattered folk belief into a cohesive, modern phenomenon. The Michigan dogma serves as crucial confirmation that the Beast of Bray Road was not an isolated hysteria. The legend illustrates a powerful and recurring fear that haunts the American Northwoods. The fear of a predator that is both animal and intelligent. A monstrous hybrid that watches from the deepest, coldest parts of the forest. From the shocking roadside encounters of the Midwest, the phenomenon moves into the ancient, isolated hollows of the Ozark Mountains. Here, the unnatural predator is a more spectral figure, a creature defined less by what is seen and more by what is heard. It is a local legend known as the Ozark Howler, a phantom whose identity is woven from a single, terrifying sound. Descriptions of the creature itself are rare, painting a picture of a large, bear-sized beast with shaggy black hair, a pair of thick horns, and piercing, glowing red eyes. The true essence of the howler, however, lies in its voice, a horrifying and unearthly vocalization described as part wolf's howl, part elk's bugle, and part the shrieking laugh of a hyena. This howl is the engine of the legend, a psychological weapon that transforms a dark forest into a place of active, listening menace. The Ozark Howler may be a legend far older than the mountains it inhabits. Its core characteristics, a black beast with red eyes acting as a death omen, are a near-perfect match for the black dog myths of the British Isles, carried to a new continent by settlers. It is a living ghost story, a perfect embodiment of the region's character, ancient, isolated, and wary of outsiders. Its howl, a piece of transplanted folklore, given a new, terrifying American voice. While some legends are born from a vague and echoing sound, others are forged in the fire of a single, powerful story. In the Appalachian Mountains, the home of the Cherokee people, there exists a tale of a predator born not from nature, but from a curse. This is the legend of the Wampus Cat, a creature that functions as a powerful cautionary tale about the dangers of jealousy and the violation of sacred traditions. The origin is a cornerstone of Cherokee folklore. It tells of a woman named Running Deer who was consumed by jealousy. Her husband was a great hunter, and she suspected he was unfaithful. To discover his secrets, she followed him to a sacred hunting ceremony, a ritual from which women were strictly forbidden. To conceal herself, she donned the hide of a cougar, a powerful and spiritually significant animal, and spied on the men as they invoked the spirits of the hunt. The shaman, possessed of great power, immediately sensed her profane presence. They discovered her hiding at the edge of the clearing, her disguise an unforgivable sacrilege. As punishment for her transgression, the medicine men cast a powerful spell, binding the cougar skin to her body and her soul. She was transformed into a terrifying, half-human, half-feline monster, a creature of nightmare with the cunning of a woman and the ferocity of a panther. She was cursed to roam the mountains forever, a terrifying guardian of the sacred rites she had violated. The Wampus Cat is thus a symbol of supernatural justice. It is a story about the boundaries between the sacred and the profane, and the terrible consequences of crossing them. It serves as a guardian of tradition, a living reminder that some knowledge is forbidden, and that the price of its discovery is the loss of one's own humanity. The creature is a powerful piece of American mythology, a predator whose origins lie in the very heart of the human soul. Beyond the realm of pure mythology, some legends occupy a unique and fascinating space where folklore and physical evidence converge. In the traditions of the Iowa people, there is a creature called the Shunkawaraki, a name which translates to carries off dogs. It is a strange, wolf-like beast, known for its terrifying ferocity and its habit of raiding local settlements. This legend, however, is anchored by a bizarre and tangible artifact. Descriptions of the Shunkawaraki in Native American lore paint a picture of a creature that is wolf-like, but distinct. It is said to have a powerful build, unusually high shoulders that slope down to its hindquarters, and a snout and jaw structure more formidable than any known wolf. It was a creature that inspired a specific kind of fear, an animal that seemed to be an unnatural deviation from the known predators of the northern plains. This folkloric account took on a physical dimension in the 1880s. A rancher in Montana's Madison Valley named Israel Ammon Hutchins shot and killed a strange, hyena-like beast that had been harassing his livestock. Recognizing its unique nature, Hutchins had the animal preserved and mounted by a taxidermist. This specimen, which he called the ringdokus, was displayed for years at his general store and later at a small museum in Idaho. It was a local marvel, a physical body for a creature of legend. The ringdokus specimen itself is a cryptozoological puzzle. It is a biological anomaly, a creature that has defied easy classification for over a century. For many years, the specimen was lost, its whereabouts unknown, adding to its mystique. It was rediscovered in the early 21st century, allowing for modern analysis, though a definitive identification remains elusive. The Shunkawaraki is thus a perfect cryptozoological mystery. A creature born of folklore, witnessed by frontiersmen, and embodied in a single, enigmatic specimen that continues to challenge our understanding of the natural world. From the dusty plains, the trail of anomalous creatures leads to the heart of the continent's great waterway, the Missouri River. In the traditions of the Mandan and Sioux peoples, the river is home to a monstrous hybrid, a creature that embodies the treacherous and unpredictable nature of the water itself. This is the Mini-Washatu, a being so paradoxical in its form that it defies all biological classification. The creature's appearance is a grotesque collection of conflicting anatomy. It is said to have a massive, furry body like a bison, but one that is unsettlingly at home in the water. Its head is dominated by a single, blazing red eye and a long, sharp horn. A jagged, fin-like ridge runs the length of its spine, and its powerful limbs are suited for both swimming and walking on the riverbed. This bizarre assembly of parts creates a creature that has no clear place in the natural order. The Mini-Washatu functions as a predatory guardian of the river. Its legend served as a potent warning against the dangers of the water. It was said to cause the river to swirl and create treacherous eddies, pulling unsuspecting victims beneath the surface. To see the Mini-Washatu was a terrible omen, a near certain promise of drowning. Its presence transformed the river from a simple geographic feature into a sentient, malevolent entity. The legend of the Mini-Washatu is a powerful example of how folklore can give a face to an environmental danger. The Missouri River was the lifeblood of the Plains tribes, but it was also a place of immense peril. with hidden currents, undertows, and sudden floods. The Mini-Washatu is the personification of that peril, a monster that gives a specific, terrifying form to the formless, ever-present danger of the water. The arid, alien landscape of the Badlands presents an enigma born from the same region as the river's treacherous waters. In the lore of the Lakota people, this hostile environment is home to a creature whose very name is a mystery. Some translate Takuhe as a question, what is it? A name that perfectly captures its profound ambiguity. Yet other traditions translate it more directly as Big Man, linking it to the wider Bigfoot phenomenon. This conflict is the heart of the legend. The Takuhe is a creature of shadows and whispers, described as a vaguely humanoid figure that is gaunt, disjointed, and physically repellent. It is a boogeyman, a monster used in cautionary tales to frighten children into staying close to home after dark. Its primary function being that of an abductor who snatches the unwary from the edge of the camp. The power of the Takuhe legend lies in this uncertainty. It is a monster without a clear form or a settled name, a placeholder for the deepest fears of a community living in a harsh and unforgiving environment. It is the personification of the unease, bred by the Badlands' strange formations and deep shadows. A chilling reminder that the most terrifying monster is often the one that defies all attempts at classification. The ancient fear of the shapeshifter finds a uniquely tragic and personal expression in the humid, history-haunted nights of the American South. In Mobile, Alabama, the legend takes the form of a deeply personal curse, its horror rooted in the tragic story of a single woman. The story of the Wolf Woman of Mobile is a uniquely Southern Gothic interpretation of the werewolf myth, a tale rooted in human cruelty and supernatural retribution. The oldest versions of the legend speak of a beautiful but arrogant woman in the 19th century who was obsessed with the hunt. Seeking a greater thrill, she sought out a local witch who granted her the power to transform into a great wolf. The price of the magic, however, was her humanity. The transformation became permanent, trapping her in a monstrous, hybrid form. This old legend was violently resurrected in April of 1971, when dozens of residents reported seeing a creature with the upper body of a woman and the lower body of a wolf roaming the streets at night. This modern flap created a local panic, blending the tragic phantom of folklore with the immediate fear of a creature in the neighborhood. The Wolf Woman of Mobile is a powerful cautionary tale about the darkness within the human heart. Her legend is a classic piece of Southern Gothic folklore, a story where beauty and horror are intertwined, and where an old curse can find new life on the moonlit streets of a modern city. This survey of anomalous predators concludes with a modern legend that transcended its folkloric roots to become a global phenomenon. It is a creature whose very name became a synonym for the mysterious and the vampiric. Born in the mid-1990s in Puerto Rico, the legend of the chupacabra, the goat-sucker, is a masterclass in the creation and evolution of a modern myth. The original chupacabra was a creature of pure high strangeness. The initial wave of sightings in Puerto Rico described a bipedal, reptilian creature with large, glowing red eyes and a distinctive row of spines running down its back. It was an alien entity, a being that moved with an unnatural gait and was blamed for a series of bizarre animal deaths. Farmers would find their livestock, particularly goats, completely drained of blood through a series of small, precise puncture wounds, a detail that suggested a surgical and almost intelligent predator. When the legend migrated from the Caribbean to the mainland United States, particularly Texas, a fascinating transformation occurred. The chupacabra's description radically shifted. The reptilian biped vanished from the accounts, replaced by a strange, four-legged canine. This Texas blue dog was described as hairless, with leathery skin, a gaunt build, and a menacing gait. This new image of the chupacabra became inextricably linked to a real-world animal pathology, sarcoptic mange, a parasitic infestation that can cause wild canids like coyotes and foxes to lose their fur and take on a grotesque, monstrous appearance. The chupacabra legend thus split into two distinct entities, bound by a single, potent name. The original Puerto Rican form is a true paranormal myth, an alien or demonic being with no clear biological precedent. The Texan form is a cryptozoological mystery, a legend created by the misidentification of diseased but very real animals. The name chupacabra became a powerful label, a catch-all term for any strange creature or unexplained animal death in the region. This folkloric evolution is a perfect example of how a modern legend is born and adapts in the media age. The chupacabra is a story that reveals the potent connection between eyewitness testimony, media sensationalism, and the very real, often unsettling realities of the natural world. It is a creature that is both a monster of the imagination and a monster of biology, and it serves as a powerful conclusion to our survey of America's unnatural predators. The most unsettling landscape of all is the uncanny valley. This is the realm of creatures that are almost human, their horror derived from the subtle twisting of our own form. The exploration of this realm begins in Kentucky, at a place where folklore and real-world danger are inextricably bound together. High above Pope Lick Creek, on a rusted and active railway trestle, lives the legend of a terrifying American satyr, the Pope Lick Monster. The creature is a chimerical nightmare. It is described as a human-goat hybrid, with the powerful fur-covered legs of a goat, the muscular torso of a man, and the pale, horned head of a sheep or goat. In some accounts, it carries a bloody axe, adding a slasher horror element to its mythological form. Its legend is tied to the very specific and dangerous location of the trestle it is said to inhabit. The core of the legend is the monster's method of luring its victims to their doom. It is said to use a hypnotic trance, or the perfect mimicry of a human voice in distress, to draw people out onto the narrow, dangerous trestle. Once they are trapped, high above the ground, the monster reveals itself, leaving the victim with an impossible choice. Face the creature, or risk the fall, or the sudden arrival of an oncoming train. The Pope Lick Monster legend functions as a uniquely hazardous piece of American folklore. The trestle is a real, active railway bridge, and the allure of the legend has tragically led to numerous accidents and deaths over the years as people have attempted to cross it. The monster is a powerful cautionary tale, a dark and demonic troll under the bridge that has become a genuine public safety concern. It is a chilling example of a story that has transcended its folkloric origins to claim real victims. The demonic, goat-like hybrid is a recurring phantom in American folklore. From Kentucky, the archetype moves to the back roads of Maryland, where it takes on a more brutal and direct form. The legend of the Maryland Goatman is a classic piece of American urban legend, a tale of an axe-wielding monster that became a regional terror in the 1970s. The most popular origin story for the Goatman grounds it in the modern anxiety of scientific hubris. The tale claims the creature was once a scientist working at the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center. An experiment involving goats went horribly wrong, transforming the man into a rage-filled, bestial hybrid that escaped into the surrounding woods. This scientific origin story separates it from the more supernatural Pope Lick monster, framing it as a tragic product of human error. The Goatman's legend is defined by its violence. It is said to haunt the local lovers' lanes and remote roads, attacking cars with its axe and terrorizing teenagers. The story reached a fever pitch in 1971, causing a genuine panic in the community. The legend became intertwined with the real-world discovery of dead and mutilated pets, most famously a dog named Ginger. The fear became so palpable that local law enforcement had to actively investigate the reports. The Maryland Goatman is a perfect case study in the creation of a modern urban legend. It is a story built from a powerful archetypal monster, given a plausible local origin, and then fueled by a community's fear and the media's fascination. It represents a potent American anxiety, the fear that a monstrous, violent secret is hiding just beyond the streetlights, in the dark woods at the edge of suburbia. The uncanny valley is also home to a different kind of terror, one that is small, ancient, and profoundly dangerous. The archetype finds a different expression in the forests of New England, the homeland of the Wampanoag people. Here we find the legend of the Pukwudgie, a creature that proves that the greatest threats often come in the smallest packaging. The Pukwudgie is a 2 to 3 foot tall humanoid creature, often described as having smooth grey skin, large ears and a nose, and a gnarled troll-like appearance. They are the little people of Wampanoag tradition, a race of ancient, magical beings that were once friendly to humanity. A great betrayal, however, turned them into bitter and malevolent enemies, a transformation that defines their modern interactions with people. Pukwudgies are masters of trickery and magical warfare. Their lore is a catalogue of their deadly abilities. They are said to attack their victims with small knives and poison arrows, to control a magical glowing light, to lure people off cliffs, to disappear at will, and to command the spirits of their dead victims. They are notoriously capricious, their attacks seemingly random and without motive. This unpredictable nature makes them a particularly terrifying figure in the folklore. The legend has seen a modern resurgence, particularly centered around the Freetown Fall River State Forest in Massachusetts, an area infamous for a high volume of paranormal reports and tragic events. The Pukwudgie serves as a powerful folkloric explanation for the real-world darkness associated with the forest. The creature is a potent reminder that in ancient folklore, the little people are rarely benevolent. They are territorial, powerful, and deeply dangerous beings whose magical world exists just alongside our own. The little people archetype, however, manifests in profoundly different ways across the continent. From the malevolent tricksters of the New England forests, the legend travels to the volcanic islands of Hawaii. Here, the ancient legends tell of the Menehune, a race of small beings who embody the archetype as shy, reclusive, and supernaturally gifted master builders. The Menehune are described as a nocturnal people, small in stature, but incredibly strong and industrious. They were said to be the original inhabitants of the Hawaiian Islands, master craftspeople who could complete massive engineering projects in a single night. Their work was said to be so precise and powerful that it seemed magical to the later Tahitian settlers. The physical evidence for the Menehune's existence is written into the very landscape of the islands. Ancient structures, like the Alakoko fish pond on Kauai, a marvel of stonework, are attributed to them in the oral traditions. The law states that these projects had to be completed in one night. If a project was left unfinished at sunrise, the Menehune would abandon it forever. This detail adds a layer of magical urgency to their story. The Menehune represent a more benevolent, though still reclusive, version of the little people myth. They are creators, not tricksters, builders, not destroyers. Their legend is a foundational piece of Hawaiian folklore, a story that explains the origins of the island's most ancient and mysterious structures. They are a powerful reminder that the uncanny valley, besides being a place of horror, can also be a place of ancient, magical, and awe-inspiring wonder. From the deep well of ancient folklore, the uncanny valley can also erupt into the modern world with shocking and inexplicable suddenness. For a few brief hours in April of 1977, the quiet, affluent town of Dover, Massachusetts, became the epicenter of a bizarre and fleeting encounter with the unknown. The creature, sighted by multiple teenagers in separate locations, became known as the Dover Demon. The witnesses, most notably Bill Bartlett, described a creature that defied all known categories. It was a small, 4-foot-tall humanoid with a pale, grayish-pink body, thin, spindly limbs, and long, delicate fingers. Its most shocking feature was its massive, watermelon-shaped head, which was completely devoid of a nose, ears, or mouth. Its entire face was dominated by two enormous, round, orange-glowing eyes. The series of sightings took place over a period of about 25 hours. Each witness gave a remarkably consistent description of the creature, lending a powerful sense of credibility to the story. It was seen perched on a stone wall and by the side of a road, a silent, unnerving apparition that seemed to observe its surroundings with an alien intelligence. Then, as quickly as it appeared, it vanished, never to be seen again. The Dover Demon is a perfect case of pure high strangeness. It has no history, no associated folklore, and no clear motive. It is a singular, isolated data point of the bizarre. The legend is a testament to the power of a concentrated, high-quality witness event, a story that created a world-famous monster in a single night and left behind a legacy of complete and total mystery. While some humanoid horrors are alien and fleeting, others are a permanent and terrifying fixture of the local landscape. In the rural backwoods of the American Midwest, particularly Ohio and Michigan, there is a persistent and gruesome legend of the Melonheads. This story functions as a potent piece of American rural folklore, a cautionary tale that embodies the fear of scientific transgression and the hidden horrors of the deep woods. The specifics of the origin story vary by region, but they share a common, tragic core. The most popular version tells of a local doctor or a rogue institution that performed horrific experiments on hydrocephalic children. These children, left with massive swollen heads, eventually escaped or were released into the wilderness. They formed a feral, inbred community, deeply hostile to the outside world that had created and abandoned them. The melonheads are described as small, cannibalistic humanoids who live in secluded clans deep in the forest. They are said to emerge at night to prey on teenagers, farmers, or anyone who strays too far down their lonely, unlit roads. The legend is a classic piece of Lover's Lane folklore, a story told to scare young people away from isolated areas. The Melonheads legend is a powerful modern American myth. It combines a deep-seated fear of medical malpractice and scientific hubris with the older, more primal fear of the feral folk in the woods. The story creates a plausible, human-made monster, a tribe of tragic and terrifying beings that are not an invasive species, but a dark and forgotten part of our own community. The uncanny valley is also populated by creatures so biologically strange that they seem to have been assembled from a nightmare. In the spring of 1973, the small town of Enfield, Illinois, was terrorized by a series of encounters with a creature of profoundly unnatural biology. The legend of the Enfield Horror is a classic cryptozoological flap, a short, intense period of sightings that left a legacy of bizarre and unanswered questions. The primary encounter occurred at the home of Henry McDaniel. McDaniel was awoken by the sound of his dogs frantically scratching at his front door. When he opened it, he was confronted by a horrifying apparition. He described a grayish, 4.5-foot tall creature with two small clawed arms, large pinkish-red eyes, and, most bizarrely, 3 legs. He fired his pistol at it, claiming the shot sounded like it hit a metal bucket, and the creature hissed at him before bounding away in a series of incredible 25-foot leaps. McDaniel's report was corroborated by other witnesses, including a group of searchers led by the local news director and even a police officer. The consistency of the description, particularly the detail of the 3 legs and the strange hopping gait, lent a powerful sense of credibility to the story. The Enfield Horror was a creature defined by this bizarre method of locomotion, an impossible biological detail that made the story unforgettable. The creature terrorized the small town for a few weeks, and then, like the Dover demon, it vanished, leaving behind only a handful of strange tracks and a truly bizarre local legend. The terror in Enfield was a brief, bizarre flash of high strangeness. This pattern contrasts sharply with cases where a creature's arrival becomes a prolonged and violent siege that grips an entire community in fear. The phenomenon ignited on a hot July night. A 17-year-old local named Christopher Davis was driving home when a flat tire forced him to stop on a road bordering the Scape Ore swamp. As he was finishing the repair, he saw a massive dark figure charging towards him from the tree line. He leapt into his car as the creature, a 7-foot-tall, bipedal reptile with glowing red eyes, jumped onto his roof. Davis accelerated away, swerving wildly to throw the creature off, catching horrifying glimpses of its 3-fingered hands and immense strength as it clung to his vehicle. Davis's terrifying account opened a floodgate. The local sheriff's office was inundated with other reports of a similar creature. The story became a national media sensation. Investigators discovered strange, 3-toed footprints and unusual scratch marks on other vehicles in the area. the town of Bishopville became the epicenter of a modern monster hunt, a community gripped by a genuine fear of the creature that had emerged from the swamp. The Lizard Man of Scape, or Swamp, is a perfect modern monster legend. It is a creature defined by its violence and its proximity to human territory. It functions as a classic swamp thing, a physical manifestation of the deep, primal dangers that lurk within the dark, inaccessible parts of the southern landscape. The legend is a powerful example of how a single, terrifying encounter can ignite a community's imagination and briefly turn a quiet swamp into the most frightening place on Earth. The Uncanny Valley's final expression moves beyond the biological and into the territory of the truly paranormal. The resulting entity is an intelligent, non-human being that masquerades as a man. In the charged atmosphere of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, during the height of the Mothman sightings, there emerged the legend of a terrifying visitor known as the Grinning Man. The primary encounter was reported in 1966 by a man named Woodrow Derenberger. While driving home, his car was blocked by a strange, futuristic vehicle. A man emerged and approached his car. The man, who later identified himself as Indrid Cold, was described as tall and tan, with dark hair and a wide, unnatural grin. The most terrifying aspect of the encounter was the communication. Indrid Cold spoke to Derenberger telepathically, his mouth never moving, a detail that pushed the event into the realm of the paranormal. The figure of the Grinning Man became a recurring character in the strange and tragic events surrounding Point Pleasant. He was seen by other witnesses, always with the same unsettling, permanent smile and dark, unblinking eyes. He was interpreted as a harbinger, an entity connected to the Mothman phenomenon and the subsequent tragic collapse of the Silver Bridge. The Grinning Man legend transcends a simple cryptid sighting. It represents a direct and terrifying encounter with a non-human intelligence, an entity with a foreboding purpose that remains a complete mystery. The Grinning Man is the ultimate resident of the Uncanny Valley, a creature that wears a human face, but whose impossibly wide smile reveals the terrifying alien reality hiding just beneath the surface. From the realm of the paranormal, the American humanoid horror now returns to a more visceral and grounded form. The quintessential American urban legend is a modern campfire tale that blurs the line between a real-world madman and a supernatural phantom. In the woods of Fairfax County, Virginia, there is a place known as the Bunnyman Bridge, the heart of a legend that has terrified teenagers for generations. The origin story is a classic of the genre. It tells of an asylum for the criminally insane that was shut down in the early 20th century. During the transfer of inmates, one transport bus crashed and a dangerous patient escaped into the woods. For months, the local woods were littered with the half-eaten carcasses of rabbits. The escaped man, it seemed, had found a new obsession. The legend coalesced in the 1970s into a classic Lover's Lane horror story. Teenagers who parked under the dark railway bridge would report seeing a figure in a dirty bunny costume emerge from the woods, often carrying an axe. In the most famous telling, the figure would chase the car, sometimes throwing his axe into the back of the vehicle as it sped away. The Bunny Man is a story told as a warning, a terrifying tale meant to keep people away from a dark and lonely place. The Bunnyman legend is a powerful piece of modern American folklore. It captures the fear of random, senseless violence and gives it a surreal, unforgettable face. The absurd image of a man in a bunny suit wielding an axe is a perfect example of how urban legends use cognitive dissonance to create a potent and enduring horror. The Bunnyman is the personification of the idea that the most terrifying monsters are often the ones that are entirely human. In contrast to the generic backwoods of modern urban legend, stands a creature inextricably bound to the history and fate of a single American city. For over 300 years, the city of Detroit has been haunted by a malevolent prophet of disaster, a small, red demon whose appearance is a certain omen of doom. It is the Nain Rouge, the Red Dwarf, the city's official harbinger. The legend dates back to the very founding of Detroit in 1701. The city's founder, Antoine de la Motte Cadillac, was supposedly confronted by the small, red-faced demon. When Cadillac struck the creature with his cane in defiance, the Nain Rouge placed a curse upon him and his new city. Cadillac would later lose his fortune and die in obscurity, the first of the Red Dwarf's many victims. Throughout Detroit's history, sightings of the Nain Rouge have been directly linked to the city's most catastrophic events. The creature was reportedly seen just before the Battle of Bloody Run in 1763, a devastating defeat for the British. It was seen scampering through the streets just before the Great Fire of 1805 consumed the entire city. It appeared again before the 12th Street riot in 1967 and during the massive blizzard of 1976. The Nain Rouge functions as a unique form of civic folklore. It is a living, breathing personification of the city's anxieties and its long, often tragic history. In modern times, the legend has been reclaimed by the people of Detroit. An annual parade is held where residents dress in costume to ceremonially chase the Nain Rouge out of the city, a defiant and celebratory act of catharsis. The Red Dwarf is a powerful example of how a city can transform its own demon into a symbol of its enduring resilience. The uncanny valley is also a place of profound sorrow. From the realm of demons and violent phantoms, the folklore turns to one of America's most enduring ghost stories. The legend of the Green Lady is a classic white lady archetype, a tragic female spirit bound to a specific place by a past tragedy. This tale, with variations across the country, is most famously associated with the forests and cemeteries of Connecticut. The most common origin story tells of a woman named Elizabeth who was caught in a terrible storm with her husband. As they sought shelter, a tree was struck by lightning and fell, tragically taking her life. Her husband searched for her in the storm, but was unable to find her body. She is now said to wander the woods and burial grounds near the site of her death, forever searching for her lost husband. Her apparition is described as a hazy, green, glowing form, often so bright that it is mistaken for a car's headlights. She is a gentle and sorrowful spirit. The legend says that if you get lost in the woods, she haunts. The Green Lady will appear and guide you safely out. This makes her a rare figure in American folklore, a benevolent and protective ghost, her tragedy channeled into an act of compassion for others. The Green Lady legend is a powerful piece of American ghost lore. It is a story rooted in a deep sense of empathy and historical sadness. Her glowing, ethereal form is a symbol of loss and eternal searching. She represents the idea that the veil between worlds is thin, and that some spirits remain behind, not to haunt, but to help, forever defined by the love they have lost. This block of legends contains one of the most fundamental figures in all of folklore, the boogeyman. In the small town of Abbeville, Alabama, there is a legend specifically designed to keep children from wandering the streets after dark. It is the story of Huggin' Molly, a figure who functions as a classic folkloric tool for enforcing good behavior. The legend describes a massive, 7-foot-tall woman dressed entirely in black, her face always concealed by the wide brim of her hat. She is said to appear only after dark, searching the streets for children who are out past their curfew. When she finds a child alone, she chases them down, wraps them in her long arms in a terrifyingly tight hug, and screams into their ear. The core of the legend is its strange and specific form of punishment. Huggin' Molly never actually harms the children she catches. The hug is a terrifying act of capture, but it leaves no physical mark. The scream is her true weapon, a terrifying auditory assault that serves as a powerful deterrent. After the ordeal, she lets the child go, and they run home, forever marked by the memory of the encounter. Huggin' Molly is a perfect example of a functional, living piece of folklore. She is a story with a clear and practical purpose: to keep children safe by giving a memorable and terrifying face to the dangers of the night. Her legend is a testament to the power of storytelling as a tool for community safety. A southern boogeyman whose terrifying embrace is, in its own strange way, a form of protection. Beyond the specific functional horror of the boogeyman lie the vast, empty landscapes of the American West. Here, the humanoid horror is a more subtle and psychological phenomenon. In the Santa Lucia Mountains of California, there is a legend of the Dark Watchers, silent sentinels whose purpose is a complete and unnerving mystery. The Dark Watchers are tall, featureless, shadowy humanoids seen only at twilight, standing motionless on the highest peaks and ridges. They are often described as wearing long cloaks or wide-brimmed hats. They never speak or make a sound. They simply stand, observing the world below. The moment an observer tries to approach, the Watchers vanish. The legend's origins are themselves a mystery. While many accounts attribute the story to the ancient folklore of the Chumash people, scholarly analysis of their oral traditions has found no direct analog. It is with the arrival of Spanish settlers that we find the first clear references to Los Vigilantes Oscuros. The legend was later immortalized by writers like John Steinbeck, cementing the image of these silent sentinels. The question remains, is this a genuine ancient tradition or a more modern myth that has sought to borrow a sense of ancient gravity? The Dark Watchers are defined by their passive, silent observation. Their menace stems from their inscrutable presence. They are a psychological horror, their power derived from the fundamental human fear of being watched by an unknown intelligence with an unknowable motive. The trail of strange humanoids continues from the silent phantoms of California to the vast and unforgiving wilderness of the far north. In the traditions of the Yupik people of southwestern Alaska, there is a legend of a race of towering, hairy giants known as the Urayuli. The Urayuli are described as immense, 10-foot-tall humanoids covered in long, shaggy hair that hangs over their faces. Their most notable feature is their incredibly long arms, said to be able to touch their ankles without bending over. This trait distinguishes them from other hairy hominid legends, giving them a unique and memorable silhouette. These giants are said to live a peaceful, reclusive existence in the remote wilderness, far from human settlements. They are often seen near the water, powerful, elemental beings that embody the ancient, untamed spirit of the Alaskan landscape. They are a powerful example of a humanoid figure in folklore that inspires awe rather than terror. The archetype of the giant, however, has a much darker side. From the peaceful, elemental beings of the far north, the archetype travels to the arid deserts of the Great Basin. In the traditions of the Shoshone people, there is a legend of a race of giants that were the polar opposite of the gentle Urayu. These are the Zoavids, malevolent, cannibalistic ogres that once terrorized the land. The Zoavids were described as huge, hairless giants with sharp horns and an overwhelming stench. They were powerful, brutish creatures that hunted and ate humans, carrying their victims back to their mountain caves to be devoured. They are the classic ogres of folklore, figures of immense physical power and pure, malevolent intent. The Shoshone legends tell of a great war between the people and these cannibalistic giants. The stories recount how the Shoshone, through cunning and bravery, managed to trap the Zoavids in a great cave and set a massive fire at its entrance, suffocating the monstrous giants and ending their reign of terror. This story functions as a foundational epic, a tale of how the people, through cooperation, conquered the literal monsters of their world. The Zoavids thus represent a vanquished evil, a powerful folkloric symbol of a primal threat that has been overcome. The Uncanny Valley's path leads from the obscure and the reclusive into the realm of pure nightmare. In the rich and complex traditions of the Iroquois people, there is a legend of a creature so grotesque and terrifying that it embodies the very essence of a monster. It is a legend of the Canoncistontes, more commonly known as the Flying Heads. The Canoncistontes are monstrous, corporeal beings. They are massive, disembodied heads with long, tangled hair, demonic faces, and a ravenous appetite for human flesh. They propel themselves through the air with a pair of large, bat-like wings that sprout from the sides of their heads. In some traditions, their hair is a mass of living flame, making them a terrifying, screaming meteor of death in the night sky. The origin of these creatures varies. In some tales, they are the spectral, vengeful ghosts of a murdered tribe. In others, they are a primordial race of ancient, cannibalistic monsters. In all versions, they are a profound threat, descending upon villagers to hunt humans. They are a powerful folkloric representation of a swift, airborne, and utterly overwhelming terror. The legend of the Flying Heads is a testament to the power of mythology to create a creature that is a perfect and unforgettable engine of horror. From the ancient horrors of folklore, the uncanny valley in the 20th century became increasingly populated by visitors from elsewhere. On the night of October 11th, 1973, a strange and terrifying event on the banks of the Pascagoula River in Mississippi would become a cornerstone case in the annals of modern ufology. The abduction of Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker introduced the world to a new and bizarre form of non-human entity. The two men were fishing when a silent, egg-shaped craft descended, and three strange beings emerged. The entities were defined by their bizarre, almost biological and robotic appearance. They were about 5 feet tall, with pale, wrinkled skin, and they floated rather than walked. Their arms ended in pincers, and their heads were fused to their bodies, featuring slit-like mouths and strange carrot-shaped cones where a nose and ears would be. The witnesses were paralyzed by a strange buzzing sound and levitated aboard the craft. Inside the craft, the men were subjected to an examination by a large mechanical eye that scanned their bodies. The experience was terrifying in its cold, clinical detachment. After about 20 minutes, the men were returned to the riverbank, and the craft departed. The subsequent investigation, including a secretly taped and highly emotional conversation between the two men at the sheriff's office, lent a powerful air of authenticity to their incredible story. The Pascagoula case is a landmark of high strangeness. The bizarre, almost comical appearance of the elephant men, as they were sometimes called, sets the encounter apart from the more common grey alien archetype. The event is a powerful example of how the uncanny valley can manifest as a technological and extraterrestrial horror, a story that replaces the magic of the old world with the cold, sterile, and incomprehensible science of another. The uncanny valley finds its ultimate and most modern expression in the digital age. In 2007, a Fresno, California resident captured an image that would become a true icon of internet-age folklore: the Fresno Nightcrawlers. The footage shows two small, otherworldly figures walking across a suburban lawn. The creatures' power as a modern mystery lies in their profound anatomical simplicity. They appear to be nothing more than a pair of long, stilt-like legs supporting a small, indistinct head. They have no arms, no torso, just a pair of legs that move with a strangely fluid, graceful gait. Some man. They have terrifying nature is defined by her. Here, the fear is of the sticky. the ashes into a tonic for the sick Edwin to drink, a ritual meant to to a legend that is one of the oldest and most enduring in the nation. In the vast, dark, and notoriously isolated carcass onto a table next to a pair of deer antlers. The accidental juxtaposition sparked an idea. They grafted the antlers onto the rabbit's head, creating the first jackalope. The brothers found their creation so amusing that they sold it to a local hotel, and a legend was born. The jackalope became a sensation. They became a popular souvenir, a tangible piece of proof of the strange creatures that lived out on the frontier. The town of Douglas, Wyoming, embraced its identity as the jackalope's hometown, and the creature became a symbol of the Weird West. The jackalope is a perfect example of a participatory myth. It is a joke that everyone is in on, a tall tale that people can own and display. The lore that grew around it, that it is a vicious creature, that it can mimic human song, that its milk has medicinal properties, all adds to the fun. It is a creature born of pure, good-natured deception, a testament to the American frontier's love of a clever prank. The category of fearsome critters also includes beasts born of pure, unrestrained imagination. In the isolated logging camps of the Pacific Northwest, lumberjacks spun tales of bizarre creatures to pass the time and explain the strange phenomena of their dangerous world. One of the most famous of these is the splinter cat, a creature born to explain the hollow trees and the strange crashing sounds in the deep woods at night. The splinter cat is a nocturnal feline predator of immense power and a truly singular hunting method. It has an incredibly hard, bony forehead. To hunt, it climbs a tree overlooking a path where its prey, typically raccoons or wild pigs, will pass. As the prey walks below, the splinter cat launches itself head first into the trunk of a neighboring tree, striking it with such force that the tree shatters, stunning the prey below with the falling splinters. The creature's preferred meal, however, is honey. It is said to have a particular fondness for the honey of wild bees. To get it, the splinter cat will find a hollow tree containing a beehive and simply ram its head into the trunk over and over again until the tree splits open, giving it access to the sweet reward within. The legend of the splinter cat is a perfect example of a functional tall tale. It is a creative and humorous explanation for a real-world phenomenon, the discovery of hollow, rotten, or lightning-shattered trees. It also gave a face to the strange, unexplained crashes and bangs that lumberjacks would hear in the forest at night. It is a story that transforms the mundane dangers and mysteries of the woods into a fantastic and entertaining bestiary. From the forests, the fearsome critters also inhabit the highest peaks of the American wilderness. In the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, lumberjacks and miners told tales of a creature of immense size and a singular, devastating purpose. This is the slide rock bolter, a monster that functions as a folkloric explanation for the sudden, terrifying power of a mountain landslide. The slide rock bolter is a creature of pure gravitational opportunity. It is described as an enormous, whale-like beast that lives only on the steepest mountain slopes. It anchors itself to the summit using massive hooks on its head, where it waits, sometimes for days, for a suitable target to appear in the valley below. Its preferred prey, according to the loggers who told the tales, was the unsuspecting tourist. When a target is spotted, the bolter releases its grip and slides down the mountain on its hard, smooth belly, its path lubricated by a special grease. It descends with the speed and force of an avalanche, its cavernous mouth wide open, scooping up its victim and everything else in its path without ever slowing down. It then uses the momentum from its descent to slide up the opposite slope, where it anchors itself and waits once more. The treeless, scarred paths on the sides of mountains are the telltale signs of a bolter's feeding ground. The world of fearsome critters is also a place of profound and often absurd emotion. From the destructive powerhouses of the mountains, the folklore travels to the hemlock forests of Pennsylvania, the home of a creature that is perhaps the most pathetic in all of American folklore. This is the squonk, a being that embodies the emotion of pure, inconsolable sorrow. The squonk's entire existence is defined by its own ugliness. Its skin is ill-fitting and covered in warts, and it is so ashamed of its appearance that it spends its life hiding in the darkest parts of the forest, weeping constantly. Hunters who have tracked the creature say that its path can be easily followed. The squonk is so filled with sorrow that when captured, it is capable of dissolving itself entirely into a pool of its own tears. The most famous story tells of a hunter named J.P. Wentling, who managed to capture a squonk in a sack. Testament to the limitless imagination of the American frontiersman, a story created for the simple joy of inventing something truly and completely absurd. The wind tosser is a creature defined by its unique anatomy and its even more unique method of eating. It is a large, herbivorous animal with 2 front legs and a single, powerful kicking leg in the back. It lives in fields of high, tough brush, and its favorite food is the tender leaves at the very top of these bushes. To reach its meal, the wind tosser performs a remarkable feat of self-inflicted acrobatics. It braces itself on its 2 front legs, takes aim, and then delivers a powerful kick to its own hindquarters with its 3rd leg. This kick launches the creature high into the air, allowing it to nibble on the treetops for a few brief moments before it comes crashing back down to earth. The wind tosser is a perfect embodiment of the spirit of the fearsome critter, a creature born of pure, playful imagination, a monster that exists simply to make the world a stranger and more entertaining place. Almost every culture on Earth shares a primal, deep-seated fear of the water. It is a fear of the unknown, of the depths we cannot see, and of what might be looking back up. In America, this fear has a specific face: a long neck, a serpentine body, and a shape reminiscent of a creature long thought extinct. The Great American Lake Monster is a recurring phantom seen in dozens of lakes across the continent. This phenomenon is anchored by its most famous case file of them all. In the deep, cold waters of Lake Champlain, the legend of America's most famous lake monster is a story that stretches from ancient indigenous folklore to the modern digital age. The creature, known affectionately as Champ, is the archetypal American plesiosaur, a living fossil that has become a beloved regional icon and an enduring cryptozoological mystery. The legend has deep roots. The Abenaki people of the region have stories of a great, horned serpent-like creature in the lake named Tatoskok. These ancient tales were revitalized in the 19th century by a series of sensational sightings by European settlers, including one by a sheriff in 1819 who described a black monster over 180 feet long. The modern legend, however, is anchored by a single piece of evidence. In 1977, a woman named Sandra Mansi was having a picnic with her family on the lakeshore when she spotted a strange creature in the water. She took a single photograph. The resulting image, now known as the Mansi photograph, depicts a long neck and the back of a large dark creature rising from the lake. It is a stunning, clear, and deeply controversial image that has been debated and analyzed for decades. The Mansi photograph functions as the most compelling and controversial piece of evidence in the Champ legend. It elevated the creature from a piece of local folklore to a serious candidate for a surviving prehistoric reptile. The legend has become so ingrained in the local culture that the creature is now protected by law in both Vermont and New York. Champ is a true American icon, a creature that represents the enduring possibility of finding a real, living monster in our own backyard. The phenomenon of the Great Lake Serpent is not isolated to Lake Champlain. Just a short distance away, in the deep, cold waters of Lake Memphremagog, which straddles the border between Vermont and Canada, there is another ancient legend. The creature here is known as Memphrey, and its story is deeply rooted in the traditions of the Abenaki people. Unlike the plesiosaur-like descriptions of Champ, Memphrey is more often described as a long, serpentine or eel-like creature. The Abenaki stories, which are the oldest source of the legend, speak of it as a powerful water spirit to be respected and feared. This folkloric origin gives the Memphrey legend a more supernatural and less cryptozoological flavor than its famous neighbor. Modern sightings of Memphrey began in the 19th century and continue to this day, with dozens of reports describing a long, dark creature moving just beneath the surface of the lake. The legend is a powerful piece of international folklore, a shared mystery that connects the communities on both sides of the US-Canada border and reinforces the idea of the entire region as a hotbed of aquatic anomalies. The American lake monster archetype also adapts to a vastly different and more complex aquatic environment. In the massive brackish water estuary of the Chesapeake Bay, there is a legend of a serpentine creature known affectionately as Chessie. This legend presents a unique biological puzzle, as the creature is said to inhabit a saltwater environment. Sightings of Chessie date back decades, but the legend came to a head in 1982. A man named Robert Frew was with his family when he spotted a long, snake-like creature moving through the water. He prehistoric fish that can grow to over 20 feet in length and live for over a century. While they are not officially known to inhabit Flathead Lake, the possibility of a relict, undiscovered population of these freshwater giants is a tantalizing explanation. The Flathead Lake monster is a powerful legend that exists in the fascinating grey area between folklore and the very real possibility of a truly monstrous, undiscovered fish. The Great American Lake Monster phenomenon also finds a home in one of the deepest and most iconic alpine lakes in the world. On the border of California and Nevada lies Lake Tahoe, a body of water of immense depth and clarity, and the reported home of a creature known as Tahoe Tessie. The legend has roots in the folklore of the Washoe and Paiute tribes, but its modern form is a tapestry of anecdotal sightings. Tessie is most often described as a serpentine creature, 20 to 60 feet in length, with smooth, dark skin. Its description aligns more closely with a giant eel than the classic plesiosaur form of champ, representing another significant variation on the archetype. The legend of Tahoe Tessie is uniquely fueled by the lake's own mysterious nature. Lake Tahoe is one of the deepest lakes in North America, its bottom largely unexplored. This immense, unknown depth provides a fertile ground for speculation. The most famous story associated with the creature is a persistent rumor that the famed oceanographer Jacques Cousteau explored the lake in the 1970s and emerged having seen something so shocking in the depths that he refused to ever release the footage. While the story is likely apocryphal, it perfectly encapsulates the power of the lake's mystery, a mystery that is embodied in the form of its elusive, serpentine guardian. While many lake monster legends are rooted in ancient folklore, some are a distinctly modern phenomenon. In the clear glacial waters of Payette Lake, Idaho, the local serpent, known as Charlie, is a creature whose story was born in the 20th century and was embraced with a unique sense of community pride. The first major wave of sightings began in the 1920s, but the creature's identity was truly forged in 1954. A group of local businessmen offered a cash prize for anyone who could capture the monster, and the Ponderosa News held a Name the Monster contest. The winning entry, Charlie, was submitted by a group of teenage girls, and the name stuck, transforming a generic monster into a local celebrity. Descriptions of Charlie are consistent with the classic lake serpent archetype, a long, multi-humped creature with a serpentine head. The legend is a powerful example of how a community can actively participate in the creation of its own folklore. Charlie is a monster born of the modern era, a creature defined by newspaper contests and local boosterism, a beloved mystery that has become an inextricable part of the town's identity. The lake monster legend is also deeply intertwined with the history of American settlement. In the stunning turquoise waters of Bear Lake on the Utah-Idaho border, the local monster's story was popularized by the Mormon pioneers who settled the region in the 19th century. The legend was first widely reported in an 1868 article in the Deseret News. The article's author, Joseph C. Rich, began collecting and publishing numerous first-hand accounts from local settlers. They described a massive, serpent-like creature with a crocodile-like head and short, stumpy legs. The most unique aspect of the Bear Lake monster legend is its reported amphibious nature. Witnesses claim to have seen the creature emerge from the lake and move on land with a clumsy, waddling gait, leaving behind strange tracks in the sand. The initial flurry of sightings created a sensation in the region, with Brigham Young himself reportedly sending a party to investigate the claims. The story took a famous turn years later when Rich, on his deathbed, confessed that he had fabricated the entire story as a prank. This confession, however, did little to kill the legend. Sightings have continued into the 21st century, and the Bear Lake monster remains a beloved piece of regional folklore, a creature born of a pioneer's prank that took on a life of its own. The survey of the Great American Serpents concludes by leaving the freshwater lakes and returning to the vast, cold waters of the Atlantic Ocean. Off the coast of Maine, in the island-dotted expanse of Casco Bay, there is a long and storied history of a massive sea serpent known to locals as Cassie. Sightings of Cassie date back to the 18th century, with sailors and fishermen reporting encounters with a colossal snake-like creature, often estimated at 60 to 100 feet in length. The descriptions are remarkably consistent with classic sea serpent lore from around the world. A long, multi-humped body, a horse-like head, and a powerful serpentine from a tree and landed farming community of Churubusco, Indiana, became the epicenter of just such a media sensation, a months-long obsession with capturing a creature of unbelievable size. This is the story of the Beast of Busco, a colossal turtle named Oscar. The legend began when two local men reported seeing a turtle of incredible size in Folk Lake, a small, 7-acre body of water on a local farm. They claimed its shell was as large as a dining room table, a description that suggested a creature weighing over 500 pounds. The farm's owner, Gail Harris, became obsessed with capturing the beast, seeing it as both a threat and an opportunity. The subsequent hunt for Oscar, as the turtle was nicknamed, became a national spectacle. Harris employed numerous methods to capture the beast, from giant fishing nets to a custom-built underwater trap, and even an attempt to drain the entire lake. Thousands of tourists flocked to Churubusco to watch the spectacle. The hunt was a comical failure. Oscar was never captured, and the efforts eventually bankrupted the farm's owner. The Beast of Busco is a beloved piece of local folklore. It is a story of how a real animal, likely a very large but natural alligator snapping a simple fishing hole and the culture. They are a powerful representation of the dual nature of water, a life-giving force that must be protected, and a dangerous power that must be respected. They are the divine dragons of Hawaii, ancient spirits who serve as a living link between the people and the sacred waters of their islands. From the divine guardians of the warm Hawaiian pools in the oldest ever-present threat of winter starvation. The story created a fate worse than death, a spirit